welcome to Grid. For those who have not participated in Grid before, we are investor focused. We like to share educational information on a hyper local level. I'm going to turn Alexa off. Alexa off. Maybe. And we have monthly meetings. So every topic is typically different. Some have overlapping, and we have a lot of new faces this time, which is awesome. And we are also recording so that once we're done with the session, we can send out a follow-up. And if you have a question about whatever was talked about, or if you wanted to get in touch with the speakers, then you'll have that ability to do so. The GRID stands for Grow, Relationships, Investor, and Develop Your Network. And again, it's a hyper local group. However, it's a national group that is out of Reston, Virginia originally. And it's basically a platform. So it allows me to plug into their systems to provide you the content. So we have some swag finally in. So if anybody, there's some GRID groupies, maybe key. If you want some swag, we've got some now. But if you're interested, just reach out and I can get some for you. And again, those who are out in Zoom land, take yourself off mute. I think there's 2 people who just joined, and ask for questions. I like to start it off though with who's got a deal going on or an investor opportunity that you want to chat through. Okay, nothing solid? Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually going to look at something tomorrow. I've recently met up with New Western Acquisitions. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And they basically find properties for investors, like
Nice.
marketing and everything. So I'm looking at something tomorrow.
Are they a wholesaler?
I mean, I guess they're nationwide. Well, not nationwide because they're not in every area, but yeah, basically like a big wholesaler.
Okay.
They have acquisition, sales, and all kinds of
Killer.
stuff. So
I should say, so I'm Rebecca Cullen, for those who don't know me. I own Cullen Company at Keller Williams. I'm a real estate investor for over a decade. And we do wholesale, we do acquisitions, we do commercial, we do residential retail. That's our bread and butter. But most importantly, I like to educate people around the whole investor network. So sorry to not share who I am, because I want to know who all of you are. Let's start with, hey, Matthew. Who are you? What do you do?
Hey there, happy to be part of GRID today. I'm with a lender, so right around the corner from where you're at there in Fort Mill. I'm with Homebridge, and we're a retail mortgage lender, but we do have a brokerage channel that does DSCR and things specifically for our investor demographic. So I'm interested to see what's going on out there in the investor demographic and how Homebridge can be a resource and how we can fund your investment dreams.
Love
and that's
it.
who I am.
That's perfect. Christina.
Hello, I'm Christina. By trade, I was a scientist for over 20 years, and I really enjoy real estate. All of our children are adults now and out the house, so I'm ready to just kind of take this journey and follow my dream of getting into real estate investing. So I'm very new, so I'm here to learn.
Are you local? Are you here in Charlotte?
Yes, I'm here in Charlotte, but I just finished another meeting, so I couldn't make it in time.
No, that's great, because there's some people that are not local, so that's why I asked.
Mhm.
All right, and then Cole. Oh, Cole, hey.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Nice to meet you all. Like Matthew, my name, I'm in the mortgage industry as well for Movement Bank, but not quite here to pitch from a mortgage standpoint. Honestly, just, here to learn a little bit more about how to start investing myself and just kind of learn about all the different options that are out there. But really looking forward to this.
Awesome, thanks for being here, Cole. Hey, Brooks.
Hey, can y'all see me, hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Oh, hey. My name is Brooks. I'm 28. I live in Fort Mill. I'm actually a licensed life insurance salesman, but I'm not really feeling the trade, and real estate is kind of something I really want to get interested in. So I appreciate y'all for having me on.
Awesome, cool, thanks for being here.
Yep.
Keith, are you available to talk?
Yes.
Oh, no, Key is a different person. Yep,
Sorry, I'm driving.
yeah. No problem, we can come back to you. Thanks, Key. All right, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Jones with, I'm a realtor with Keller Williams. Just here to learn a little bit about the investing side.
Awesome. Katya?
I'm May, this is Katya, I'm Marcus.
I don't like to talk. Okay.
I was like, I'm Marcus. We are yet to get a property in our belt, but we're definitely starting the real estate investment journey.
Cool.
And yeah, what's that?
Like residential?
Yeah, residential, definitely.
Cool. Awesome. I'm Lori, I'm a real estate agent at Keller Williams as well, Salisbury. And we're all I can from my clients. Love it. You had some great stuff happening, wheels spinning when we talked about wholesale a couple of seasons ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I did, and then I done family and I'm
Yeah.
for a bit, but got back into it.
Awesome.
I'm Chris. I own a brokerage here in Charlotte, as well as one in Michigan. And I'm just trying to get on more into the investment side.
Awesome.
Wholesale investment.
Thanks for being here.
Hey, we're Fred Marsh, my wife and I are clients of Rebecca. We got a house a couple years ago through a connection of ours. One property was best indication. And what we're just looking at, how we can stay local.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm
Awesome. Thanks for driving down.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Colton, and I'm the owner and operator of Full Source Construction. And moved here from the West Coast about 2 years ago. Started my company here. And so here, I was invited by Lori, who was, if I knew.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm here to meet people and answer questions and just learn more about investment.
Cool. I'll direct some questions in a little bit. Lori?
I'm Lori Shaw. I am Lori Shaw Interiors, which is an interior design firm in Charlotte. And I do some work here in Charlotte, but my main focus is short-term rental design. So I have done mountain properties, beach properties. My husband and I have some properties ourselves, but it has turned into what I really want to focus on with my design business. So I'm trying to do more and more of it.
So Lori shared a really cool blog post. It's her most recent post, but it's all about how to curate the short-term rental design. And it's fascinating. I loved it. Thank you. You're welcome. So let's get started then. So the biggest thing is estimating renovations, which is why we're all here for this topic. John, when you are with a client and someone's like, hey, what can I do? Can you walk us through with that? I mean, it's super visionary at that point. Like, how do you hone them in and get them in real world scope?
Yeah, that's a tough one, kind of finding, where you're gonna land. It's, there's not really, like, I don't just throw a square foot price at remodels because every single one's different, and then, finishes could be more expensive, or availability, or not just the material itself, but the labor to install certain things difficult. So there's a lot of variables. And then some things you decide to keep or not. And so you just sit down and have the conversation and start somewhere. And that's kind of what I do is, you know, kind of talk through, I like to meet with clients, and talk through the options and try to get a feel for what they want, and then also like, hey, well, this would be quite difficult, so that would cost more, you know, just kind of talk through the whole process of budget and what your vision is, and then kind of talking through the canvas. And
Do you prefer a overhaul, or do you like to start from scratch? Like, I think that might be the same question, but do you like to build up and start from ground down? Or do you like to walk into a house that is a fixer and has the bones?
I don't, I actually have one, like a pool house that I'm starting, you know, ground up. But other than that, I do mainly.
Awesome. Okay.
So,
Yeah, we were just talking, so Fred mainly does like commercial overhauls. And we were talking about the difference between, so like the difference between steel and sticks, right? So we primarily walk into properties and we see wood here versus steel became, well, not only for commercial, but for the last 3 years, steel was a little bit less expensive. And we started to see some steel building happening. Do you have lots of questions or lots of requests for barn dominiums and those kind of things?
No, I haven't had any, but they are pretty cool.
They are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or like the tiny home requests?
Yeah, no tiny home requests, just mainly remodels and, that that's what I focus on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Lori, when you have a new client and they estimate or they want to see what the final product could look like, what does that journey look like for you and your clients?
So, you know, I try to ask as many questions as I can in the beginning before I start doing any work about, you know, what do they want? Especially, and again, focusing on somebody that is taking a property and plans to rent it on Airbnb or something like that. So there's lots of different viewpoints out there. Some people think they want their property to stand out as much as possible. So they do want a lot of color, that type of thing. Some people want the opposite. You know, they want to appeal to everybody. So they are afraid to use a lot of color or anything crazy because they feel like it will exclude people. So I find that people are, you know, really divided in terms of that. So I try to just ask a lot of questions in the beginning about, because most people are still going to use this home partially sometimes during the year and that kind of thing. So anyway, it's just a lot of conversation at the beginning to try to figure out also price point. You know, some people say that, you know, I know I'm going to use this 4 or 5 times a year, so I still really want it to be really nice. And then some people are just all about the math. You know, I want to spend the least amount possible. I want to get it on the market as soon as possible. I want to have it for the highest rent possible, and it's all about the numbers. And they really don't care. They're not emotionally invested in a lot of it. So there's just a ton of conversation that happens at the outset, and that drives what direction they go in.
Awesome. So are you, John, seeing a lot of people flipping, or is this their permanent primary residence that you're working with?
Right now, well, I do a lot of work with both. All this week, I'm working on a short-term rental property on Lake Wiley.
So cool.
And then, but I also do a lot of work for primary residents. So both.
Do you have a team, or is it you on each project just kind of managing?
Well, it's my company's pretty new, but I'm a general contractor, so I've built up a team of subs that I use, and then I manage the projects personally and fill in the gaps and basically am the project manager and you know, the responsible person for all of the work being done and the communications with the owners and all the subs and you know, holding the liability for anything that's wrong or you know.
Have you figured out the secret to getting people to show up on time?
You know, it's a process of building relationships and you just have to, and it's a tough one. And that's like I've had subs stand me up several times and it really causes a lot of problems, messes up the schedule, wastes your time. It's really aggravating. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. So I don't overcommit. I make sure that you know, the only thing I can do is control what I do and what I say I'm going to do and following through. And then if someone doesn't show up, then I just don't use them the next time.
Right.
And it's really hard to find good work.
It really is.
Like I came from Michigan 4 years ago and it wasn't nearly as tough there. And if you find somebody good around here, that will run.
Yeah, we were paying retainers in 2019 for GCs, just to like stay, and then 2020 hit, and everybody started getting booked. We couldn't find people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say something that helps is, well, a lot of people, when they want something done, they want it done now. So trying to put together a realistic schedule or just a plan, having a plan and then being consistent with that plan and, you know, a little bit of patience and persistence, but also, you know, those kind of coupled together, because if you're not continually pushing, you know, the plan, then it's going to die.
Right.
But if you're unreasonable, but it also you have to be very patient with, you know, so it's kind of that's kind of how I approach things.
Awesome. So, Lori, share a little bit about your favorite thing about the renovation plan.
So I guess, I mean, my favorite thing about the process is the organization part, just getting everything done. So one of the things that, you know, a lot of times interior designers that will call themselves full service interior designers, they kind of start with someone that's building a new home or something. They start like in the planning phases. And so they're literally your clients for like 2 years, 3 years. I don't have any interest in that. That is too long of a relationship for me. So what I love about the short-term rental thing is everybody has the same goal. Get this thing done, do it really well, and get it turned around as soon as possible. And that's sort of like how my brain works. I'm like hyper organized, hyper focused. I don't like meeting with a client and everybody being really excited about ideas. And then that person goes on vacation for a couple weeks, or their kids have this, or whatever, and then you don't circle back until like a month later, and then you kind of have to start all over again. A lot of that energy is faded, and so you're kind of starting all over. So what I love about the short-term rental process is everybody has most of the time that same sense of urgency. So decisions are quicker. And again, it's not their primary residence. So they aren't the people, you know, the clients aren't as invested. They're more likely to say, what do you recommend? Or, you know, in terms of fabric and fabric choices, it's like, okay, I highly recommend performance fabric in a rental. And I highly recommend this style of a bed in a rental. I like beds that go all the way to the floor, so that from the cleaning crew standpoint, you don't have to worry about dust bunnies. And so like, there are just things like that that just make sense. And people are just more willing to go, okay, you know, if it's their home, it's different. There's a lot more back and forth. I'm not really sure. And with a short-term rental or a medium-term rental, I guess it's now also a thing. But with those, people are just more, clients are more likely to err a little bit more on the side of what makes sense. They still want it to be beautiful. We all do. Everybody wants their property to look fantastic. I want it to look fantastic. So people say, oh my gosh, I love this. Who did it? You know, everybody wants the same thing, but there's less of that dragging out. And I think there is that time crunch, and I respond really well to that. That's just one of my strengths. So
One of your, and I'm not gonna, dive deep into the blog, because I think people need to look at it, but you have this Instagram moment where like every, one of your properties, you have this picturesque thing, and it's actually that, I don't think like that when I'm putting together a midterm or a short-term rental, but the truth is you want people, you want to get into their database, right? And you want to have people click on that link of,
yeah,
oh, well, I need to come book that too.
yeah.
That was really smart.
Yeah, it's something that is really, you know, especially if you are gonna go with Airbnb, they really want that. You know, they want that, and people want somebody scrolling, you want that moment that sort of pops off the page. And if you don't want an entire 2-story pink house or something, having that one wall or that one vignette or something that is specifically geared towards that Instagram moment, it pays off for everybody. It really does. And it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be, you know, neon signs and things like that, but it should be something that is pretty obvious of like, that is a great place for us to snap a picture and we're on vacation and everybody, hey, let's get a selfie and that type of thing. So it does make sense.
So also towards Instagram or photos or before and after. So John, if you're growing your business, or let's say someone watches this and wants to create a contractor business in the future, are you constantly doing before and afters to show the project to your future clients?
Absolutely, yeah.
What, if someone wanted to start off, whether it's a house flipper or partner with a GC, like what would the best practice be to start a relationship with you?
Should I say your phone?
Yeah, I mean, sure, your website.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you can give me a call. Yeah, we'll just set up an appointment and come meet with you, and that's the most important thing is making sure it's a good fit. You know, you want to try to meet, you know, as a general contractor, I'm also evaluating clients to see if I'm, you know, if we mesh well, and I'll be able to, like, I want the job to go well, and I haven't had any bad jobs, but yeah, so it's just, you know, it's like kind of dating.
Right.
And that's fine.
Well, and that's, so what I've found is I'm not this way, but I have clients this way who are like, I want an update on a daily basis of how my money is being spent and who's on the project at what time. And like, that would totally make me mad as a GC, because someone's being hired and you're gonna get the job done and you're being, or you tend to be a good steward of money. At least it's, you know, what we would hope with someone who has a great reputation. But like if someone literally was like, hey, Sean, can I have a daily report of your full process? I'm sure that probably would not be a good fit.
Yes, that's, I mean, it's a lot of, yeah, if you put in a long day and you're trying to do the best you can on having a good product and doing, you know, how the line work, you don't want to have to write about it.
Yeah.
You know, so, that feels kind of micromanaging, and I've had people request that, and sometimes it's just, you know, hey, I don't have a problem give the people what they want, if that's what they communicate up front, and we agree to that type of relationship. So, but yeah, but I would recommend, I mean, if it was hourly, then that would be, I would say totally acceptable, but if it's a hard bid or a contract for, you know, line items, then it's up to the contractor to follow through. So,
What questions do y'all have? Licensed in North Carolina too?
yes, I am. I'm actually not licensed in South Carolina.
I had a question for Jonathan. And I apologize if you already said this, but like as far as payments, if you bid on a project and you accept that project, would we pay 50% of the total cost to you immediately or 10%, or does it just depend on the project?
It depends on the project. Sometimes, like I say, if I buy cabinets and the cabinet company, they want 50%. Well, then, I'll charge 50% for, so that I'm not coming out of pocket, to pay for materials. But, it's around 20 to 40% typically at the start of a project, and then installments based on percentage of completion from there on out.
Are you seeing a lot of cash or are you seeing construction draws?
Mainly cash.
Yeah,
Would you hesitate to do 50%? Especially if it wasn't like a big company that you knew a lot about. I mean, there's somebody doing work at my house that for the landscaping, they wanted 50% down.
but if it was 50% of the cabinets, would you?
No, I mean, like, so if the project's 50,000, they wanted 25,000 before they started the landscaping project. And that got me nervous because it's like a guy, his buddy doing the work kind of thing. It's just, I mean, do you see a lot of that where they require that much upfront?
Yeah, I mean, that you definitely need to vet the contractor, and them being licensed is because if they're licensed, then there's a lot more credibility there.
Sure.
And they have a legitimate business, and they're not just doing it on the side. They have a lot more on the line, so they're a lot less likely to do that. They want to check reviews and get referrals and stuff like that.
For the renovation of this building, I did pay 50% because I didn't want him to go find another project.
Yeah, that's true.
I had a deadline and I was like, what will it take for you to just stay on my site?
Mhm.
And that's what it was. So, we ended up being under budget though, so I guess my 50 was more than the next 50%, but
Yeah.
yeah. What other questions, Zoomers? Okay, so
I have a question. How does what y'all were talking about with the 50% down on the cost of renovations, how does that affect like the cost all around, like, when the deal is completely done, job's finished?
did you understand that?
Well, say it's $100,000 job, and they want 50% down, 50 grand up front, and then once you get, I'll have it specified in the contract to at 75% completion, or once I hit 50% completion, then there'll be another percentage, like 25%, so that because I'm using that money to buy all the materials and hire all the subs, and there's subs that are coming in for short durations, and you need that cash flow. Because contractors also have to worry about customers not paying them as well. So So basically, you just kind of, you don't want to overpay too far, but, so you just kind of pay as you go. So the contractor can keep buying materials and hiring the labor and skilled tradesmen that he needs to.
So if there's no blanket renovate, like, as a realtor, I walk through a house and my clients are like, oh my gosh, we need to repaint, we need to rip out the cabinets, we need new flooring. Usually I can be like, okay, this amount of square feet is gonna be $3 a square foot for paint, if they wanna do white ceilings, one coat or one color on the walls. Flooring, LVP, we're gonna guesstimate $10,000, whatever. Is there a rule, if it's totally construction builder grade, is there a rule that we can follow to just right out of the gate, be like, that's gonna be a $30,000 job?
As far as price per square foot for just kind of the basic items like paint and flooring
Yeah.
and, yeah, it's hard to do,
Yeah.
because like LVP flooring, yeah, it's easy to install, so it'll be cheaper, but there's different grades of flooring,
Right.
you know, so it just, like my wife, she always picks the most expensive. Like when we go, if there's no price tag, she always picks the most expensive at anything.
That's quick, yeah.
So, you know, like, I don't know if you have that problem.
My sister does that. When you all swears that with anything that he does that, no prices are shown, she'll gravitate towards something that ends up being. So we love it.
Yeah, it's often we're coming into these situations where people are like, oh my God, I don't want to buy this property. And in my mind, I'm like, it is only gonna cost us $12,000 to do everything possible. Granted, if they start thinking courts or, I don't know, like a upgraded light package, then it won't be that regular price, but, I just didn't know if there was like a general rule.
Yeah, well, so this short-term rental at Lake Riley, they hired like an unlicensed contractor, a handyman, and he's been there for a month. And they called me in there, well, just to back up, you just want to make sure you hire like a licensed professional, that you have referrals, that have good references or good reviews, because he's tiled the bathrooms, like the tub stalls, started on the shower, they told him to stop, tiles cracked, new tubs cracked. The tile looks like awful, it's just terrible, so I'm gonna tear it out.
Ugh.
So they paid someone to do it, you know, and paid for the materials, paid him to do it wrong, and now they have to pay me to tear it out. So, I think as far as that's more important than having like just a blanket cost, because there's so many variables, but going 100 miles in the wrong direction and then having to come back to go the right way to make the end goal, it ends up costing a lot. And so not only well, I'm trying to salvage some of the stuff that he has done, so, and not completely just start over, so it's even more frustrating and difficult because it's a pain. You know?
Yeah.
So, but I also feel bad for the customer, and, you know, so I'm doing the best I can to help them get it back on track. And so
you lose time, you lose money, you lose reputation in not hiring the right person.
right, and then if it's a short-term rental, I mean, you're not able to rent it, you're not able to get your photos and list it and all that good stuff. It's just they've lost a month.
Okay.
So yeah, the money they saved is gone,
Right.
and then some. So so I think taking the time to find a good contractor that you that you like and communicate well with, and then also like having your well, when I reach out to contractors, if they don't communicate well up front, then that's kind of a tall tale sometimes. So yeah, it kind of doing that effort up front, vetting out contractors, getting prices, because you kind of see what they have to say and how they, how much effort they'll put in up front. Not that they need to put in a lot of effort, but just even communicating, like basic communication.
So when you're looking at where to get materials, do you have specific vendors that you always go back to, or do you have your clients go seek that, like floor and decor, for example? I love to go to floor and decor because I can physically hold what I'm looking to add, but they're also probably way more expensive than Canada or one of the other. You probably don't use either of those because you're with wholesale prices, but.
No, I use those. I think it just, I have the customers, well, I'm always giving the customers options, send them pictures, and I mean, that's something that I do is like, I know when I need to reach out to the client and make sure they're good with it, and I'll just do it. So, and that, all the material choices, like if there's a designer involved like Lori, I'm gonna be working close with her.
Right.
And it's all about communication. So, and like from the very first meeting and the start of the project, knowing what the client, taking the time to understand the scope and what the client's end goal is and what their vision is, kind of like Lori was talking about earlier is. So if you have that in mind, then then you don't really have any surprises. You go, hey, here we have this. This is a little different. We can here, we can do this and that.
Okay.
So, but as far as material choices, I usually have the client either just tell me what they want and I'll go pick it up, and sometimes try to pick up like all the form,
Right.
Just pick out what you want, and we can talk through what it takes to install it.
So more design. Okay, let's say someone is putting together a brand new short-term rental. Are there specific, I'm trying to think of how to ask this question. Are there specific go-tos, whether it's lighting or colors, that you're always saying, you're gonna get your best bang for the buck when you do these?
I mean, I'm always thinking about hiding stains, just because it's just a given with rentals. They're just gonna take a lot of abuse. And there's just not a whole lot you can do about that. And so I try to steer people towards colors that are gonna hide stains, materials that are going to be easy to clean, and patterns. I mean, patterns are your best friend when it comes to stains and things like that. So where a lot of people in their own home wouldn't want a patterned sofa or a certain pattern or something like that, sometimes I'm steering them towards, this will be great from a just hiding stain standpoint and that type of thing. I do a lot of, usually it's about trying to get as many families as possible into these rentals within reason. I mean, but so there's almost always a bunk bed room. And so with that, like you have to do a cage ceiling fan, like just from a safety standpoint, not put a ceiling fan in a bunk bed room with kids that are wild and crazy on vacation are going to see if they can jump off the bed and grab it onto the ceiling fan. So just a practical thing like that, but I never allow, and it's amazing because the builders always put them in. They always put the ceiling fan in, and I try to catch it early enough to ask them, hey, even if you have to pay it upfront or whatever, please don't put a ceiling fan in the bunk bed room. but they almost always do, and I always recommend swapping it out for a cage fan. So something like that. Dimmers, as much, just giving people preference. I mean, at the end of the day, we really do want your guests to feel like they can relax and that they're on vacation and they are in a home. They're not in a hotel. So we don't want harsh lighting. And we do want those comforts of home and that type of thing. So, mood lighting, that type of thing, a lot of different lighting sources, which you do really want in your own home also, but table lamps, overhead lamps, but not fragile table lamps, and even the way that they're constructed, more squat so that they're not going to fly off when they take an elbow, when the kids are wrestling on the couch. And so you don't want some tall skinny lamp that's going to easily fall over. So those are the types of things that I'm thinking in my head. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to look really well. And I want it to flow with everything. But I also want it to kind of be as secretly indestructible as possible.
So I know that your subject matter expertise is the SDR.
Yes.
But if you had somebody that was thinking about flipping a property,
Yeah.
like I want to just make a quick buck.
Okay.
What would you recommend from a design perspective of what the masses would like?
Neutral. Yeah. I mean, I did like a 2-part, somebody told me it was the most boring blog they'd ever read, but I did a 2-part series on all the different white paint colors. Because there are a million, and you really, there's a pleasing white and there's like a hospital white, and there's a lot of things in between. Depends on where the sun is coming from in the room and all of that kind of stuff. But honestly, as neutral as possible. You want people to walk through and not say, oh, I can't imagine being in this house. That you want them to walk into a clean slate where they can picture their furniture in here and their dining set in here and that type of thing. So really just as neutral as possible, maybe like a couple of fun things. I mean, if there are pendant lights over the island, you can still do something that's cool, that's not outrageously expensive. So a little, so that it isn't boring, but for the most part, it shouldn't be about your personal preference. When you're flipping, it should be trying to make it so that everybody that walks through can see themselves in that home without having to do a lot of stuff. You don't want them saying like, I hate this paint color, I'm gonna have to change it. I don't like the tile that they use. So now in their head, they're adding up how much expense they're going to have to put in. You don't want that. You really want them to be able to turnkey take it. So yeah, neutral.
Awesome. More questions from the crowd?
I have a question. This is Christina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this question is for both Jonathan and Lori. When you have a client, do you provide an itemized list with like how much materials are going to cost or anything like that? Because I know even for our home, when we were looking at contractors, a few of them just gave us the total, and I asked for itemized list, and it was like, oh my gosh, why are you asking for this? So I'm just wondering, is that something that we should request, an itemized list and cost of materials?
So I'll provide line items for the different scopes like flooring, paint, carpentry, millworks, bathroom remodel but I don't typically break it down like cost of materials per line item.
Okay.
Once we go through all the materials that you want to use, and I understand the scope, then I'll put together a price with line items. And so typically, general contractors, they'll mark up the materials, but
Okay.
it's not just making money on materials. There's like for instance, I installed a toilet that was brand new, and it turns out that specific Kohler toilet was defective, and like there's thousands of them that were defective and it flooded. Well, it didn't flood, it just leaked from the tank and damaged the ceiling because it was on the second floor. So, you know, I made, you know, my markup was like $20 on the toilet, but I had to spend $500 fixing the ceiling. So,
Oh, okay.
so yeah, so it is normal to mark up materials, and a lot of people will kind of not like that, but there is, you know, time involved in sourcing the materials, picking them up, and then also the warranty on the materials. You know, there should be a 1-year warranty on what's installed, and these sometimes, you know, a lot of these things are made by people and machines that sometimes make mistakes, and so yeah, that's kind of how it goes with me.
Same question.
And so the way that I charge is I charge a design fee for my time, and then the furniture is separate. And so if somebody comes to me and says, I don't, you know, it's this many bedrooms, it's this many bathrooms, and usually I want to see the space first, but sometimes I don't, I'm not able to do that if it's somebody that's in another area. But if somebody comes to me and says, look, I have $30,000 for furnishings, it depends on, you know, sometimes I'll just say like, that's just not enough. Or I'll say, okay, I can work with that. But most of the time my clients come to me and say, this is the space, there's this many bedrooms and this many bathrooms, and I will just show you line by line by line. Okay, it's 3 queen beds, it's 6, you know, 2 triple bunk beds, it's 2, you know, whatever it is, you'll see it all line by line by line.
Okay, thank you.
I see a chat box bubble. Let's see what's being said. Jeff or Brittany, do you guys have any questions? Oh, there are questions in here. Sorry. All right. So, oh no, you asked that question. Okay.
Yeah, he answered it already.
Great. Awesome. All right. So what did we not talk about that you're like, everybody has to know this?
Got a question for. As you're in the design process and looking at space for potential renovation or upgrade, how do you both account for unknowns? What do you pull out?
Well, like the previous question of having line items, when you throw just a one blanket price for an entire project, then it can create a problem on the understanding what you're actually getting. So if you put line items and square footages or rental fee and actually have it all laid out, then it's very clear and fair that if the client says, hey, you know, I want another room painting, or they just add something, and you say, well, you already have a price per foot, a price per lineal foot, square foot. So you can say, well, okay, well, that's gonna add to the budget, but here's the pricing. And it's usually not an issue. But if so you take the time up front to have a clear scope. That's how I avoid issues, and then, but it's not always so so black and white, but it's usually not a problem. I'm not counting every little detail is kind of bad.
I have 2 answers for that. So one would just be like in real time. So if we had bought a sofa and it's install day and I go there and fit in the door, which should never happen because that should have all been thought through ahead of time, and you should know that. And I always try to steer my clients towards sectionals because they can go up in pieces, and just, you don't usually have a problem. I've seen where everybody's holding their breath and, you know, the legs have been taken off the sofa and everyone is like hoping, praying that you can get it around some corner or something, and I don't like that. So, but anyway, so some of it is in real time where it's like, it's all about communication. You know, as soon as you know there's an issue, or if we're gonna have to pivot, or there has to be a change, it's reaching out to the client right away and saying, okay, I know we talked about X, Y, Z, but this is what has happened. This isn't going to fit, or we are going to need a bigger, you know, this or that, or whatever. And just getting having that conversation right away, and having the client either say, well, let's just stick to the plan. I don't really want to make a change, or okay, let's do this or this, or whatever. So one thing is just in real time communication right away to let them know, hey, we need to pivot, something's changed. And then the second thing is I offer different packages, but my biggest package is where the client never comes to the house. So they want me to do all of the big furnishings, all of the decor, and actually get it ready to rent, including every trash can, everything. So there is depending on the size of the house, kind of a fund at the end that I just have discretion to use and give receipts for all of the little things that nobody remembered. You know, that, oh my gosh, we actually needed whatever, 10 bath mats that we thought that the rental agency was going to provide. Turns out you have to provide those. So it's a run to Target or whatever the heck it is to get this done. And so there's a pool of money that I kind of get to use discretionary to meet their deadline. And I just turn receipts for that.
Any other questions? Any other?
I have questions. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions.
This is so good. Keep asking.
Do you, for Jonathan and Lori, do you have a common situation to where your contract states that if you're not completed, I guess it may be more for Jonathan than Lori, but for both, this question is for both. If you are not able to complete the project by a certain time frame, do you subtract a percentage from the cost? And the follow-up is, do you do the opposite? Like, have you had where you get a bonus or you receive a bonus if you complete your projects earlier than planned?
That's a good question. I haven't received a bonus for finishing early, but there's always, there's always a perk for everything. So, that's just a comment. If it's a time sensitive project, then, it's important to discuss like how long the project's going to take. Because and you should have that in the contract, because you don't want a contractor to show up and start and then leave and then it's just sitting there, which does happen. I don't do that, but that's something that you should work, that you definitely want to have that in the contract. And then, for residential, it's not, they call it liquidated damages. I have a contract with the city of Charlotte. It's just it's an on-call contract, but usually the public works and city contracts, they'll have liquidated damages on every project where it's a set amount. For every day that you're past the deadline, it's a certain dollar amount, whether it be $500 or $1,600. So, but when you're having those discussions with your contractors, the quicker you want it done, the more it's going to cost. So if you want a whole house remodeled and everything bells and whistles in a month, then that means you're going to have like 30 people coming in and out. So roughly. So if you're more flexible, then you'll be able to save some money. But also, so it's you have to kind of figure out where you want to land on that with your time frame and also your gauge the relationship with your vendors, your contractors that you're talking to.
Makes sense.
No bonus. That is just the expectation, the nature of the business. We're all working towards the same deadline, so I don't expect a bonus for getting that done. I think, it's spelled out in the contract that there are some things that are completely out of my control. I mean, if anybody has tried to buy a piece of furniture in the past 2 years, you know that there is a massive bait and switch program out there in terms of when they tell you you're gonna have a piece of furniture. So imagine when you're ordering 12 beds and 5 sofas or whatever it is, that the odds of getting all of that in the time frame that the manufacturer has told us is pretty unlikely. I mean, and again, I do my best to, again, depending on the time frame. I mean, if somebody came to me a year before they were gonna have it on the market, hallelujah, that would be amazing. We would have every choice known to man. But the closer you are to the date that you want it on the market, the smaller our options become. And so, the more time that I can have, the better. But when you're on a really tight time frame, things happen. And so again, that's where the pivoting comes in, where you have to say, okay, guess what? The purchase that we made yesterday that said that this was going to be here in 4 to 6 weeks. Today, I got the email that now it's 11 to 16 or some insane time frame that it gives them all the room in the world to not get it there on time. And so that's no longer an option for us. We've got to pivot. We've got to make something else happen. So those things are out of my control completely. So I would have that written in the contract that I couldn't be penalized for that. But yeah, if it's install day and I don't come and do the install, then of course, that is completely on me. So it depends. It depends on that.
Any follow-up questions to that?
Thank you.
Cool. Well, grateful for both of you for sharing. I think the biggest takeaway that I got from it is things happen. You have to hire a talented licensed contractor and just know that there's no blanket cost for anything, that it's all very specific and goal oriented around pricing. Is that right? Yeah. Well, cool. So those in Zoom land, thanks for being here. Those who are here, feel free to connect, network. If you didn't sign in, please feel free to do so. That way we can stay in touch with you, send the recap and the video.
You both have cards?